Democrats are panicking after Charlie Kirk's assassination, and Pete Buttigieg just proved it with one of the worst performances I've ever seen on national TV. Just pay close attention to how he dodges responsibility from the left and how he somehow is able to place the blame and accuse President Trump of being the problem here.
Mr. Secretary, I do want to get your response to some of what we've heard from the president. This from the Oval Office just this week. Take a look.
My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country.
What is your reaction to hearing that?
I want to be really clear about this. This is an example of something that is hurting. We're not getting the leadership that we need to bring this country together from the White House. And in order to turn the tide of political violence, yes, we have to reject those who commit political violence. Yes, we have to reject those who celebrate or promote political violence. But also, in order to deprive political violence of its power, we have to reject anyone who would try to exploit political violence. The response to this cannot be for the government to crack down on individuals or groups, not because of violence, but because they challenge the government politically. We need to have free and open political debate and a healthy political process in this country. And by the way, just like an overwhelming majority of Americans reject violence, an overwhelming majority of Americans, left, right, and center, believe that the government should not be cracking down on its political opponents because they are political opponents, not in the United States of America, not ever.
Talk about gaslighting. Pete Buttigieg was asked to respond to President Trump's statement where he promised to find the people responsible for Charlie Kirk's assassination, as well as other people responsible for political violence. That is not persecuting people who are exercising free speech. That's not persecuting people who are against the government. Talk about just gaslighting at its finest. And instead of affirming the plan to crack down on crime, the plan to hold people accountable, instead, Pete Buttigieg just completely pivots and instead makes this all about, oh, it's bad for the government to crack down on this. It's bad for the government to persecute free speech, which, again, is not what's happening. He's essentially saying, well, yes, violence is bad, but you know what's even worse? An overbearing, authoritarian government, which is, by the way, what led us to this moment in the first place, right? The fact that this guy likely had ties to Antifa, definitely, I mean, he wrote, catch this fascist. It's very clear what this guy believed, what side of the aisle he was on. And hey, there's only one president I know of in my living history that's ever been called a fascist, been called a dictator, been called an authoritarian. So yeah, I believe that he was dodging, downplaying, and effectively denying the reality of left-wing extremism, violence, and the dangerous rhetoric that they're continuing to spew out to this day. The fact that Pete Buttigieg just couldn't flat out say, hey, I support President Trump in this endeavor. I believe we need to make sure that the killer and any potential accomplices or anyone who was involved in any sort of way, even if they just knew about this in advance, we need to make sure that they're held accountable. We also need to make sure that any future plots are stopped. But instead, no. He somehow found his way, seemingly walking a line, but ended up looking evasive and ended up, again, putting President Trump under a target. And I obviously don't mean that to be inflammatory, but that's what Pete did here. Sure, Pete might not have specifically invoked Hitler, but he definitely was leading the listeners to the Kool-Aid and asking them, hey, lick it up. If he's accusing the sitting president of cracking down just on free speech, of people protesting against the government, that itself just connects Trump, again, to that authoritarian narrative that for whatever reason, after an assassination, even after that, they still just can't let it go. Obviously, we have free speech in the station, but free speech is not unlimited. For example, we all know you can't defame, you can't libel someone. You also can't promote violence. You can't call for violence. You can't incite violence. All of that is not part of the First Amendment. That's not what it was made for. Yet this is continuing to happen on the left. And guess what? People are doing it openly on social media. Again, if this isn't tamped down, what's going to happen next? And that's why President Trump's talking what he's talking about. What is really disturbing is people are putting their face on social media, and that tells me they have no shame. They're not ashamed to say this. They're not afraid of blowback. And here are just a few clips with obviously their faces and social media handles. This first girl basically is also calling for the rest of Charlie Kirk's family to be taken out. This is disgusting.
So I keep on seeing like posts about this Charlie dude, whatever, Kirk dude, whatever, regardless. And let me just say this. I'm surprised that y'all didn't get rid of him sooner. And I'm surprised that you guys aren't getting rid of more people. Like, don't stop with him. Don't let him be the end all. Get rid of them all. And the ones that are above him. Your mayor. Your city councilman. What is it? Georgia Power? The people that keep on raising our the CEO, get rid of them. Yeah. Like.
Yeah, and she just keeps going on. I'm not going to play the whole thing because I don't want anyone to get the wrong impression or anyone to think that I'm somehow endorsing or condoning that. But I just want to prove the point that people, like, they really have no shame here. To be in the mindset to where you think it's even okay to post that online really tells you what an echo chamber the left is in right now, and just I can only imagine how much hatred is in their hearts. It's really disgusting. A lot of this really comes down to, we've been talking about for years, the indoctrination that happens on college campuses. Just take a look at this one girl who was asked about Charlie Kirk's death, and it's just one of the most unhinged responses I've seen yet.
I actually want to say something about this. If you're going to spread hateful shit and you're going to incite, you're going to target marginalized groups of people, don't be all, oh my God, I've been shot. I won't get shot because I don't do that. I don't have to worry about that. I don't feel bad for him. I don't feel bad for his wife. I feel bad for his daughter. He did that to himself. You want to talk about all this crazy shit? Don't act crazy when other people are going to come and shoot you.
So I have just one general question. Do you think your life should be in danger for having an opinion?
If it targets marginalized groups of people, yes, you are spreading hateful speech. It's not like I have an opinion about if I like ketchup or mustard. No, you're talking about people of groups, marginalized people. Those are hateful. That is hateful speech. If someone
she uses the phrase marginalized people, which of course has been indoctrinated into her system, marginalized, but she's talking about, oh, you can't talk about groups of people. What about Christians? What about conservatives? What, like, it can go on. Asian Christian conservatives, black conservatives, black Trump supporters, white Trump, like, you can go on and you can create a group out of everyone. The reason she thinks she can get away with that is because she's used the magic word marginalized, and because of that, oh, okay, now it's okay. But if she applied her logic to any other group, she would realize the follies of her way, the flaw in her logic. But she's not going to do that critical thinking because apparently they don't teach that on college campuses anymore. Of course, it's not just regular people. A lot of this is being promoted even by celebrities. So there's this rap duo named Bob Villain, and take a look at what they said at their recent concert.
I want to dedicate this next one to an absolute piece of shit of a human being. The pronouns was, were. Because if you touch, you will get banned. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk, you piece of shit.
Just absolutely terrible. And again, I'm not sharing this to promote it, obviously. I'm not sharing it to condone it. I'm not sharing it. It really is. Some of this stuff is so radical and hateful that I feel like, for me anyways, you kind of have to see it to believe it. And I want to understand, like, how so many people like can post on TikTok and be that hateful and have no shame. And it's because this is what they're surrounded by, and they don't hear the other side, or for whatever reason, conservative voices, I don't know if we're like still trapped in the algorithm and it's just not getting onto their news feeds, or they're not like searching for other information. But clearly, clearly there are like just two different worlds of reality here, and it's just absolutely disgusting. Now, On the flip side of that, there are some Democrats who are finally waking up, talking some common sense. I made a video yesterday about Bill Maher. Well, Senator Fetterman has actually spoken out about this. But before I do that, I would like to acknowledge Stacey L., Mean Gene, Extra Mean, USMC Car, Beans, Gummy, Peter Forsyth, Unbelievably Crazy, Kathleen Ide, K-Dog, Karen Necht, Inky, McTrim, Pretty Indy, Lightning Director, and Beacock as the members of today's Governor's Club. These are people who give tips and super thanks to the channel. Now, just because I'm acknowledging that someone did something right, did something good, it's not saying that I agree with John Fetterman's every single viewpoint or every policy position. I don't. But hey, I'm going to give kudos where kudos is due. I think he did a great job answering this question, and especially when you consider that the interviewer clearly was trying to get him to, attack Trump and the right.
When I represent a state like Pennsylvania, that keeps you honest. And you always can't forget that a lot of Americans happen to disagree with you. That does not mean that they are fascists or now they want to shred the Constitution.
But when you hear some Democrats saying Trump is acting like an autocrat.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. If you actually compare him to an actual autocrat, that is not just that. Now, last night, for example, people were complaining. They were protesting about, that's the Hitler thing. You just don't ever compare anyone to Hitler and those kinds of extreme things. And now look what happened to Charlie Kirk. I mean, the man was shot. Now, we have to turn the temperature down. It's like we can't compare people to these kinds of figures in history. And this is not an autocrat. This is a product of a democratic election. It's like I participated in that. It was safe and it was secure. We lost. And the America people put us in the minority. And now that's democracy. And I revere democracy. I may not like the outcome, but I have to respect that, and I have to find and work through this. And that I do believe that's what's appropriate.
So you don't think that Trump is at all shattering any of the norms of democracy in any way?
I'm saying he's definitely different, but that's what America voted for. Again, I don't agree with many of these things, but that does not make him an autocrat. That does not make someone or compare him to people like Hitler and these other outlandish things.
We need more Democrats to think and come out like John Fetterman, because again, I might not agree with his every policy decision. I might not like some of the things he does and says, but hey, at least he understands the seriousness, the gravity of this moment. And I thought he answered that question perfectly. If only Chris Murphy could follow the same tactics. Chris Murphy posted this on X: "Pay attention, something dark might be coming. The murder of Charlie Kirk could have united Americans to confront political violence. Instead, Trump and his anti-democratic radicals look to be readying a campaign to destroy dissent." Again, he doesn't use the word dictator. He doesn't use the word authoritarian. He doesn't even invoke Hitler, but he's definitely dragging his sheep along to the river to lick up the Kool-Aid and just soak it all in. That's what he's doing there. What other conclusion can you draw? Of course, it's also hypocritical because Chris Murphy himself has used violent rhetoric in the lead up to this. He flat out said, "We are at war." I don't know how else you can interpret that.
Like we're in a war right now to save this country, and so you have to be willing to do whatever is necessary in order to save the country.
Yeah, it's just the Democrats are going to do what the Democrats do, I guess. But again, if you listen to what President Trump said, he never said anything about cracking down on dissent, on free speech, on even criticizing or protesting the government. Protesting the government is a key cornerstone of our First Amendment rights. You're allowed to criticize public officials. You're allowed to criticize the president. You're allowed to do all of those things, of course, as long as you do it peacefully. What the left is doing is they're gaslighting. We saw it with Pete Buttigieg right at the top of this video, right? Basically somehow twisting this narrative and perverting the entire situation to make it about Trump instead of the radicalism and the rise of violence that's happening among everyday people. The fact that this was a person, a college student, who shot not even a political leader, but just a random citizen like you and I get Charlie Kirk's not random. Of course, he was a leader, but it's not like he was in a position of official government power, right? He was just using his voice, which any of us can do, especially in the age of social media. So there's that. Unfortunately, it seems like this narrative that Pete Buttigieg is pushing, it appears to be the new Democrat narrative, because I've seen this all over the Sunday morning talk shows, and on CNN, they were pushing the exact same propaganda.
I think it's interesting, too. We've all watched, in the absence of information, conspiracies and partisan accusations fly and fill the void. This week, for the first couple of days, we had a void in terms of identity. We didn't know who, we didn't have a suspect, we didn't have identity, and we didn't have motive. We now have someone in custody, we have a name, we have an age, we have information starting to come out. According to county officials, this 22-year-old was registered to vote, had not voted, grew up in a home with Republican parents, and yet we still don't have really any idea about motive as we continue to piece this together, but we have not watched President Trump back off his rhetoric or his aides backing off rhetoric about the radical left, which we don't know, but there is no evidence to support that right now. Yeah. But there is radical left with fingerprints on it.
That is the new gimmick of the left. What she just did there, what Pete Buttigieg did, what Chris Murphy did. What they do is they will put 2 dots on the map and they won't connect the line between them, but they know that their listeners will connect those 2 dots for them. Like she talks about the shooter, Tyler Robinson, having Republican parents. Just because he had Republican parents doesn't mean that he himself is a Republican. She didn't mention that. What's funny is she didn't mention the trans boyfriend who is currently transitioning. She didn't mention what he wrote down on the casing. She didn't mention all of these chat rooms he was in and the partner, and all of that. All of that was left out, but conveniently, Republican parents, I'm going to put this dot on the map and let you draw your own conclusion. That is their new tactic that they're using here. And if once you can put a name to something, it's really easy to spot it. And I think you'll notice it a lot in the coming days because they've been doing this, I mean, like crazy over the last 24, 48 hours. As always, though, all of that is just my analysis and commentary. That is what's going on in the world of politics, and I would love to hear from you. So for people who openly, and not just text-based, but I showed you a few examples in this video, right, who show their face and are openly advocating for violence, what do you think can realistically, practically be done to stop that? Do you think that social media giants should step in, take care of it? Do you think that there should be report buttons and after it gets flagged a certain amount of times, it gets removed? Do you think it should be forwarded to law enforcement? The FBI gets it? Like, what is... I'm not claiming to have the solution, but I would love to hear. I believe that there's wisdom in numbers. Like, if you had a magic wand and could wave it and fix all of this, practically speaking, what would you do? What would be the next steps? How can we find unity and common ground once again? If you haven't already, please be sure to leave me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask for, but it really does help me reach more viewers like you in the algorithm. For those of you who are new to the channel, because there are a lot, welcome here. I am so glad you found the videos. I'm glad you enjoy. I've been seeing your comments. I'm sorry I can't reply to every single one. I mean, it's literally been tens of thousands. It's been insane. I am humbled that you've chosen to watch my videos, and I am incredibly grateful that and humbled, again, doubly humbled, that you chose to subscribe. And it is my goal to always deliver, to be factual, genuine, authentic, and I hope I don't let you down. Thank you for being here. Did I say subscribe? Well, if I haven't, subscribe and be sure to check out one of these videos.